Occult Confessions is brought to you commercial-free through the generous support of our patrons. Visit occultconfessions.com and click on Donate to help keep the history of the occult on the digital airwaves.
A secret brotherhood of occult masters hidden somewhere in the Himalayas have been conspiring to manipulate humankind by keeping us ignorant of the true occult nature of the universe, reframing our Western religious traditions, namely Christianity, as the poor copies of older Eastern religions, and implement a program to manipulate humankind into an enforced peace and managed union by establishing a secret international organization that they control, namely the United Nations. Which is not a secret, I guess we know about it, but they secretly control it.
It's not the best secret, but...
They are the secret.
Yes.
The United Nations is not secret. So goes a line of conspiracy theories dating back to the 1890s, and inspired by Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Blavatsky, the theory goes, was the messenger or pawn of these secret societies, and she was responsible for setting the wheels in motion for a vast global system of occult manipulation that has persisted into the present day. Helena Blavatsky operated according to commands sent to her telepathically and supernaturally in precipitated letters. These letters were written by the brothers. No, not her brothers, but the brothers of the White
some
Lodge.
Of them been her brothers?
No, they were not her. No, they weren't. They could not have been. They were the brothers of the White Lodge, the secret occult White Lodge, which she distributed, the letters that is, to her colleagues and followers. The letters expressed these secret brothers' mission to preserve the science of occultism and supported an effort to enlighten the Western world by gradually exposing them to the mysteries of Eastern religion, particularly esoteric versions of Hinduism and Buddhism, in the hope of bringing about a worldwide enlightenment. This was really a good thing. Written on the seal of Blavatsky's Theosophical Society is the credo, "There is no religion higher than truth." The Masters, or Brothers' Truth, revealed the hidden oneness of all religions as reflections of the ultimate knowledge that only the Brotherhood had anything like a comprehensive understanding of.
That kind of messed me up a little bit, Rob.
It's pretty intense, right?
It was really deep, yeah.
Unless, of course, it's all made up.
Well, that's less
What?
deep now.
Yes. It's entirely possible that Blavatsky made up these masters. They were hidden, after all.
So much
So
effort,
no one
though.
could prove it.
She was the only one that we communicated through, right?
So there's not a secret group controlling the United Nations?
There still might be. This is the first. We don't know. We got to find out. That's the
Okay.
mystery. It's the first of
Get ahead of myself.
2 episodes focused on Blavatsky's Indian Mahatmas. There's really 2 big occult mysteries to uncover here, Shannon. First, since the masters remained hidden from the public and only Blavatsky and a few close followers ever communicated with them, the question becomes, did they even exist at all, as we just said? Or were they her invention? We'll be tackling that issue today, so never fear. You don't have to wait. We're going to try and answer that today as best as we can.
Okay.
But we might not be able to do it. We're going to try.
What?
The second issue is, if they exist, what do they want? And how are they trying to achieve it?
Okay, so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand it. They're following the real religion.
Secret White Lodge. They have the truth, the true religion.
But there's other religions, all that's just
There's
like
religions
a
all over
lie
the
/ a
place.
cover-up that they made people believe so they don't find out about the truth?
No, they're just concealing the truth until we're ready for
Yeah, I
it.
think you're getting a little too conspiratorial now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
after
bad.
that reptilian
Not that much.
episode.
They just don't think we can't handle the truth just yet.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
But if we
Shannon.
can't handle the
Yeah.
truth, then how do we know that there is a truth?
Oh, okay. That's a little much for me. I gotta...
That's what
Check
Occult
out.
Confessions is here for.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
I'm freaking out,
let's
but
begin
let's
our
go.
journey
Just
to the White
plunge that
Lodge.
deeper. Like, I didn't need that.
To the White Lodge, friends, at the top
Onward.
of the Himalayan mountains.
That seems like a massive effort.
My name is Rob Thompson. I am the Supreme Hierophant of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors and Doctor of American Occultism. I am in my element today. I am joined by
That's
Brianna Litterall, substituting in for Olivia.
Whoa.
She is our metallurgic prophet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shannon Landers, our Instaquisitor.
Hello.
And Jacob Wheatley, Knight. I was going to call you a master, but you're a knight. You've been knighted.
I've been knighted. I might become a master of...
The dangling serpent.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
How does one
Working up
become a master?
You gotta work up your education.
Yeah, well, he's been knighted. I mean, that was pretty
But how do you become a master? Sorry, we can continue.
We, the members of the
Secret
Secret
Order
Order
of
of
Alchemical
Alchemical
Actors,
Actors,
do
do
solemnly
solemnly
commit
commit
ourselves
ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it. Cool. Again, we've moved our order of confessors to the end of the episode, but in lieu of that, we are going to do 3 plugs. It's a new segment I'm doing. 3 plugs. We will plug 3 things, because this is a commercial-free podcast. So we plug 3 things at the top of the episode,
Okay.
but no more than 3.
All right, I'm going to keep tally.
Here we go.
Of this.
Plug number 1, please subscribe to our podcast if you are enjoying it, and review it if you are listening on iTunes or any other place where you can review it.
Oh,
Plug number 1.
yeah. Fair enough.
Fair enough. Plug number
Yeah.
2. Join us on Patreon. We're now doing that at the top of the episode, but as part of our 3 plugs, I want to thank Benjamin B., who is our newest patron.
Thank you.
Welcome, Benjamin. And we're going to be featured on Lifemancy. Our friend Rachel from Texas is clipping a piece of our episode on the subliminal
right.
consciousness
I
and
did not know about
the
that.
soul and all that stuff, and she's going to feature it in her. Yeah, she does lots of clips in her podcast. So check out Lifemancy
We're
and
making
our friend
friends.
Rachel.
This is exciting.
Texas friends.
Good old
Even
Texas.
better.
Yes, even better. All right, let's get to Madame Blavatsky, shall we?
Okay.
In America, that's 3 plugs.
That was it.
That was it.
Closing it
Yeah.
up. See how quick and painless that is.
It was, yeah.
I feel like we spent more time talking about how many plugs there were.
And there was
actual plugs.
actually listing the
Well, we don't have to do that ever again. Now we will
Oh.
know that it's
Okay.
going to be a feature of our second year of podcasting that there will be 3 plugs. How many plugs? 3 plugs.
We still spent more time on that.
We're adding more
It's even
time.
longer.
I just want to rack up the minutes
All right,
here.
all
I'm
right.
talking about
Yep.
plug number. All right, fine. In America, Blavatsky worked most closely with the Brotherhood of Luxor, who often communicated with her through the spirit of John King, our last episode.
Yes.
right.
Pirate man.
Pirate ghost.
Ghost man.
Even better.
Yeah.
Seraphis Bey and Tuitit were prominent letter writers in these early days. They were the masters who wrote most of the letters to her from their secret
Their names
Egyptian
are so...
luxury.
Yeah.
Then, as Blavatsky got closer to making the trip to India, and after traveling to India, her allegiance shifted from the Egyptian Luxorites to the Indian Mahatmas, namely Master Moria and Kut Humi.
Wait, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, we've talked about Kut before. Yeah, you Jacob's favorite Humi.
The only Humi to me.
So these masters would have accompanied Blavatsky on her travels through Tibet in 1867 and 1868. And then, the story goes, they took a backseat during her launching of the Theosophical Society in America, leaving Bey and Tuitit to lead the way. And finally, they resumed their interest in her as she planned to establish a headquarters for the society in India. If we follow all this. So there's a lot of ins and outs of the brotherhoods here, but she's essentially hanging out with the Himalayan brothers, then she leaves them for a while to hang out with the Egyptian brothers, then she goes back to her Himalayan brothers.
Okay.
All right, here's the definition of the Mahatma according to Blavatsky herself.
A Mahatma is a personage who, by special training and education, has evolved those higher faculties and has attained that spiritual knowledge, which ordinary humanity will acquire after passing through numberless series of reincarnations during the process of cosmic evolution.
HPB, which is what we call Helena Blavatsky, the cool kids.
I didn't get that. at
She
first.
went by that. She went by HPB.
Really?
Yeah.
She and Olcott departed from New York. Also Jack.
Huh.
Yeah.
What?
She really did, yeah. She would occasionally go by Jack.
Go by
Olcott called
Jack?
her Jack, yeah. Her friend
And
Olcott.
HP.
So HPB, we'll go back to that. HPB and Olcott departed from New York for Bombay by way of London in December 1878 and arrived in India in February 1879. These dates are going to be on the quiz.
Here's a quiz.
So it took about 3 months to get there. There's no quiz. For the next 5 years, Blavatsky and Olcott crisscrossed British-occupied India, befriending Indians and Raj colonizers alike. What is the Raj, you ask yourself? I
Yes.
can hear it. I can hear it.
What is the Raj?
Yes, I will tell you in our very early episode, Brief History. We're going to invite James Kaplanchis over to the circle to do a brief history of the Raj.
Yay.
A brief history of the Raj. The Raj.
I like the way you say that.
Thank you. The Raj is the name given to the British colonization of India.
Yeah.
So referring to India, but under British colonization.
Right.
Colonization began not with Britain as a nation, but Britain as a company, specifically the company of the East India Company, a joint stock operation responsible for opening up trade with the East and initiating the colonization of Southeast Asia, China, and India.
Yeah, we just sent that company all over the place. The company did the conquering.
The colonization of India began in earnest with the East India Company's victory at the Battle of Plassey in Bengal. They defeated the Nawab of Bengal and the French, who had been competing with the British for control of Indian trade.
Yeah, they're fighting around the world, the French and the British.
They're just like, hey, you're here? I don't want to see you here. I'm here. You get over there.
They're racing each other to places. Yeah, they're like a couple of school children trying to conquer the mountain.
This is my place.
I was here first.
This is my desert.
I licked it.
It seems strange to say that a company conquered Bengal, but when you think of the role of defense contractors in modern warfare in the Middle East, it's not so strange after all, and it makes the profit motive behind warfare refreshingly transparent.
Yeah, as opposed to Halliburton.
Yes. The loss of America in 1783 drove the British public's interest in expanding their empire into India, and by 1849, they had defeated the Sikhs and conquered the Sindh and annexed the Punjab and made arrangements with princes in other regions for cooperation and control.
Yeah, they pretty much had the subcontinent.
Halfway through the 1800s.
Yeah, it took about 90 years.
Wow. It's a long time, but they have a lot of mountains, so it's hard to maneuver around.
It's a lot of maneuvering.
The typical British bureaucrat in India was attended by a house full of Indian servants, carried through the streets in a shaded palanquin carried by teams of 8 working in shifts of 4.
So they would put you down, those 4 guys who were carrying you, and then they would walk to the back, and there were 4 guys who had been walking behind you. And they would pick you up. And then the guys that were carrying you, they would walk behind you.
Like teams of human wheels.
Just turning and
I wonder
turning.
how heavy these palanquins were.
Well, as heavy as a British guy, plus whatever
more.
he's carrying.
Yeah.
and I guess the weight of the thing. Like my kid in the car seat is way heavy.
Because it's the kid and the car seat.
Yeah, something about the car seat makes her heavier.
They were mostly soldiers and administrators and frequently bored, lacking the company of merchants, businessmen, artists, and writers. Dueling was common, even though it had been outlawed back home in Britain, because of the culture of excessive drinking, gambling, sexual license, and personal honor among army officers.
Yeah, India was like the Wild West for British aristocrats.
Or the, Australia of... I guess the Wild West is
British,
better.
yeah. British criminals.
Yes. Beginning in the 1830s, the British Parliament became dominated by liberals who sought to reshape Indians as liberal British citizens. Education for Indians, who would serve as middle managers in the company and railroads, were central to these plans, but liberalizing efforts had to be balanced against native customs and traditions, which were often rooted in Hinduism. British clergymen came in to convert the populace, but Blavatsky and Olcott arrived in India with the opposite project.
Yeah, that brings us up to where we're at.
And that's a brief history of the Raj.
Beautiful. Great.
Nice job, James.
Good.
Nice job.
Like always.
In 1880, the island nation of Sri Lanka invited Olcott and Blavatsky to visit after one of their more famous orators.
What's that, Rob?
An orator? A guy who speaks for fun and profit.
Why would you speak
Oh.
for fun?
Profit.
Is speaking fun?
His name was Megatuvate
What? Can
Gunananda.
you say that again one more time? Rob?
Megatuvate Gunananda. So he was a really famous dude in 19th century Sri Lanka, as you all know.
Yeah.
And he translated Isis Unveiled as part of his ongoing conflict with the nation's Christian missionaries. Blavatsky's anti-Christian polemic in Isis Unveiled, he really got on board with, because it was penned by her, a white Russian woman, with the assistance of an American man. So he was like, look at these white people, they think Christianity's stupid, so Sri Lankans, who should be Buddhists, what the hell? Right? Be cool, stop being Christians, stay Buddhist. That's basically what he's going around doing. So this guy, he's like, look at how cool these two are. Why don't you come to Sri Lanka? So through Ganananda, they become Sri Lanka famous, Olcott and Blavatsky, which is an awesome kind of famous. If you can be famous on an entire Southeast Asian island,
Sri
You should be.
Lanka's the
Sri
one.
Lanka's
I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah. You're set, man.
Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka.
There you go.
Yeah.
Olcott would go on to champion Buddhism in Sri Lankan schools and help to compose a Buddhist catechism. That's a word for me. That's not in my ilk.
You don't say it daily?
No, I don't say that daily.
What is a
Essentially,
catechism?
it's like a book of how you do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Essentially, so he publishes this book and he works in the schools, rescuing the country's religion, Buddhism, from the jaws of Christian missionaries who are trying to stamp it out, essentially.
Yeah, those Christians always go after the Buddhists.
With their jaws.
I can say this
As a Christian.
As
As a
one.
white Christian male.
Yeah, we always. Well, not me, but
Following their adventures in Sri Lanka, Blavatsky and Olcott found themselves at the home of A.P. Sinnett, a man who would go on to become a major figure in India's new Theosophical Society. Alfred Percy Sinnett lived with his wife Patience in Allahabad, Brightland, where he edited The Pioneer, a leading Indian newspaper considered to be the mouthpiece of the colonial government. After returning from Sri Lanka, Blavatsky and Olcott spent 6 weeks with the Sinnetts. Alfred recorded their experiences with Blavatsky's supernatural feats in his first book, The Occult World, which made a splash back home in England. Yeah, exciting book. We're going to learn all about it today. I know.
ooh,
Sinnett, it's like your favorite sound.
it really is.
Sinnett asked Blavatsky to open up a direct line of communication with one of her Mahatmas. So he's like, okay, Blavatsky, so you have these Mahatmas. I want one. Kuthumi,
He's just gonna take a
Can
Mahatma.
one just take a Mahatma?
he wants his own Mahatma line, his own line to the Mahatmas.
Why doesn't he just
Because
get
he's
a
known her
brother?
for 6 weeks, so clearly he's entitled to that now.
How do you...
You're British. First of all, you're a British colonial in India, and you just feel like you can have whatever you
So
want.
you're used to taking things.
Yeah.
Got
She's
it.
like, give me a Mahatma. And she's like,
One-
I'll ask
one
them.
Mahatma.
Maybe.
They won't go after Coot, will they?
They will. Kuthumi accepts the offer.
Oh, not true.
Well, they didn't go after him. He came to them because he's
Oh,
hidden.
that's
So you
less
can't just go
dramatic.
get him.
You can't find the hidden.
So between Masters Moria and Humi, speaking of these two guys, Moria appeared to be of a slightly higher order than Kut. Although Blavatsky described them as residing together in the Karakorum Mountains. Humi had been a native of the Punjab and studied in Europe before becoming a member of the Brotherhood. Moria had appeared to Olcott in the early days of the society, but preferred to leave most of the letter writing to Humi. So, Kut, lower in the order, but talks
Number
a lot
one
more.
in our hearts.
Right, and he writes all your letters.
Cool.
A lot of your letters. Correspondence between Humi and Sinnett was passed through Madame Blavatsky and informed the content of both Sinnett's book, The Occult World, and his subsequent book, Esoteric Buddhism. He asked Blavatsky if she would pass a message to one of her masters, in hopes that it might precipitate a regular correspondence. Basically, he thought that because he was British, as we mentioned, and because he had a newspaper, so he's extra special, he was entitled to have this exchange with one of the masters. But he quickly found out that Humi had mixed feelings about writing to him. Humi told Sinnett that occultism was an ancient science that used to be practiced through the globe, but as history marched forward and European culture became increasingly material in its philosophy, this occultism had only been preserved in select corners of the world, namely Egypt and India, home of Blavatsky's two brotherhoods. The brothers were focused on the development of the soul, further exploration of occult secrets, so number 1, the soul, number 2, occult secrets, and number 3, use of supernatural power that Indians called akas in order to achieve paranormal feats. In order to keep occultism alive, the brothers had to be constantly focused on the development of this knowledge. While they were sympathetic to Blavatsky's project to publicize their discoveries and enlighten humanity, Humi was unwilling to let his and the brothers' own research decay while they turned to this marketing project.
So I had a quick question. So it says they would try to achieve paranormal feats. What would an example of this be?
We're going to find out.
Oh,
literally right
wow.
now.
Yes, we're about to hear about the paranormal feats.
Look at your timing, Shannon.
Look at
You're
me.
right
Look
on
at me
that.
go.
But I want to point out, I just emphasize here that Humi's basically saying it's more important that we keep the flame alive in secret than that we publicize it to the world.
So was he concerned that this dude was gonna publicize the secrets?
He was open to him publicizing it, so he's
Oh.
okay with sharing it. It's just not his focus. And if the sharing leads to people trying to like seek them out and stamp them out, then that's not a consequence he's willing to hazard.
Can't risk smothering the flame, man.
Right. The most important to preserve it. Blavatsky had developed her own power and knowledge, and stopped just shy of the point where she could have been admitted into the Brotherhood. But she had developed her occult telegraphic ability so that the brothers could use her to communicate with the TS and the wide world, TS meaning the Theosophical Society. Many of the British Raj weren't especially impressed by Blavatsky's occult phenomena, though, so she's basically going around as like their spokesperson, doing occult things and writing occult books and trying to get people on board, and they're, maintaining the flame secretly in the mountains. But many in the Raj were like, yeah, Blavatsky, you're doing some kooky stuff. They mocked her, they called the people who believed in her dupes, and they believed that her feats were all performed through some trickery. Sinnett took the unpopular position of defending the various phenomena Blavatsky achieved in his presence during her 6-week stay at their home in Allahabad. Her phenomena were especially persuasive because, in Sinnett's words,
The conjurer is assisted by any number of confederates behind the scenes. Madame Blavatsky is a stranger to Simla and is a guest in my own house, under my own observation during the whole of her visit.
Generally and frequently, Blavatsky produced raps, which sounded in all sorts of ways in all sorts of places. This was a regular feature of spiritualist mediums' stock and trade. But you remember from all of our episodes about the spiritualists, they like to make rapping sounds?
So many raps.
But Blavatsky attributed her raps to elemental spirits, which she controlled. This goes back all the way to our first season. She's the master of these elemental spirits, and they cause the rapping sounds. It's not some ghost or spirit who's doing the rapping whenever they feel like it. So the spiritualist medium, the ghost, the spirit, just visits and does all the rapping the spirit wants to. With Blavatsky, she's like, spirit, rap for me.
She said,
So she's
do it.
She calls
Controlling
upon
them.
one and asks them to do it.
She's
instead
the
of just
boss.
waiting for one.
She also produced the sound of a silvery bell in the air, with no instrument visible to make the sound. It came out of nowhere, ringing through the air, and signifying pretty much nothing at all, except that there was the presence of an otherworldly force around her.
To go back to what Bree said, she said that she asked the spirits to do it. Is that what she was doing? She was asking them to perform
No.
this, or was she
She was sort of
100%
demanding it.
controlling
Yeah,
them?
she kind of was
She's
like,
the boss.
come here now, do this. Like,
She's
I'm-
using them to
yeah.
achieve these occult feats, the bell and the taps.
Okay.
Blavatsky produced an array of other more eccentric phenomena, many surrounding the production of notes from Humi. The notes meaning scribbled on
Oh, okay.
things. Yeah. Not
Not like music notes.
yeah, not music. Where else? But there is the bell.
Yeah.
Like he sings
Yeah.
and then comes out of a trumpet somewhere. So she produced these notes under mysterious circumstances. And for our discussion today, I'm picking out 3, Shannon, for your benefit, 3 of the strangest and most difficult to explain phenomena that she produced during her 6 weeks in Allahabad through the power of the masters. Do you see? So she was controlling elemental spirits, but she was also like a vessel that the occult masters used to achieve their paranormal feats.
Oh, okay.
So they endowed her with the power to make these things happen, or they made these things happen and then told her about it.
Okay.
Got me?
Okay.
First, we have the cup and saucer incident. I know.
That sounds a little weird. All right.
Yeah, sounds exciting, doesn't it?
I'm ready.
Sinnett and his friends planned an expedition for 6 to have a nice aristocratic British picnic up a hill in Allahabad. Everyone's sort of like straightening up and
All like,
feeling very British,
British.
and on a picnic.
Posh.
Very very posh.
We don't have enough picnics on this podcast.
By the way, we don't associate our British listeners in the present day with British colonizers, which we don't want to offend our British listeners.
Yeah.
We understand you're not the same as aristocratic colonizers of India. We would never accuse you of that. Okay. Now we've got that out of the way. So they're going on a posh British picnic in Allahabad. But at the last minute, an extra guest joins, creating a real hosting crisis for the Sinnetts.
Yeah, like they packed enough for those people.
Why don't you just get an extra cup out?
Missing a cup and sauce.
Food.
They've already left.
But how far is
They've
the
already
picnic
departed.
from their house, really? Let's be honest.
But wait, there's going to be something paranormal.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Whatever will we do? It's so stressful being privileged and British in 1880 and having to have picnics all the time. Ah!
You see, they only had 6 cups and saucers for tea, but they had 7 guests. 7! They were short a cup and saucer, Brianna.
I'm sorry.
And so they figured they would ask the all-powerful White Lodge exploring the deepest and most complex spiritual secrets of the universe if they wouldn't mind producing a cup and saucer for them to have a proper tea.
Just go get a cup.
You know,
Just literally physically
if I
go.
was in that situation, though, I too would ask the White Lodge if they could.
I'd be like,
help
hey, can
brother
you
out.
go and grab me a
No,
cup?
because you
don't
gotta.
have to-
No, you have to attend to the guests, okay?
They don't have to attend to my guests. I am. They can go get a cup for me. That's not spiritual.
So Blavatsky.
You could share a cup.
Sexy. So Blavatsky was very patient with him, and she contacted the Brotherhood, who shockingly were like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do the cup and saucer thing for you."
See, now I'm on board with them.
Blavatsky walked to a spot on the ground where she asked a gentleman of the party to start digging. He got under the ground cover and beneath some roots, and there he discovered a cup exactly matching the set the Synods had brought along to their picnic. Quelle surprise!
Wait,
It's French for what a surprise.
okay, I didn't know what that
You
meant.
threw me off for a second.
I was being a little facetious.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Second, the slightly less insulting incident of the brooch.
The brooch.
But wait,
The brooch.
I'm still not over the cup
That's it.
thing.
That's all I have to say
Why
about the
was
cup
there
and
a cup
saucer.
in it? There's-
Because the brothers
you don't deserve to
materialized
get
it
to know more than
underground.
that.
Now the brooch.
Did the dirt look fresh before they dug it up?
Was it
Wait,
a
are
pile
you
of dirt?
suggesting that they pre-planted the cup there for
Yeah.
this incident?
The brothers did. They came from the Himalayas.
Yep, all the way.
It's possible that someone had Shannon, and actually when Sinnott talks about this, he talks about the ground cover being, not disturbed and all this sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the brooch incident. Can I do the brooch incident now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Dinner parties are almost as stressful as picnics. The mood has grown quite dull, and I've run out of ideas to entertain. Madame Blavatsky, perhaps you could produce another one of your occultisms.
In a mood to
sad.
prove the occult power of the Brotherhood, Blavatsky offered to produce any object for Mrs. Allen Hume, a friend of the Synods, and would-be convert to the Theosophical Society. Mrs. Hume asked for a brooch that her mother had given her that was lost years ago. After quietly consulting with the Brotherhood, Blavatsky instructed the party to go outdoors and pointed to a star-shaped bed of flowers, where she claimed the brooch had fallen after it had been materialized by the brothers. Lo and behold, there it was.
That makes more sense than digging it out of the ground.
Finally, there is the cushion incident.
Ooh,
This is weirder.
sounds-
This is even weirder than the cup one.
Koot Humi had placed a note on Sinnott's breakfast table telling him to expect a token proving his astral presence near Sinnott. Later that day, at another picnic on another hill, Blavatsky asked Sinnott where he would like the object he had planned to send to him to be placed. Sinnott delegated the choice to his wife.
Really? Why should I choose? I'm always having to choose where psychometrically telegraphed objects are going to form, as if I don't have my hands full planning picnics and dinner parties.
Sinnott's wife asked that the sign appear inside her travel cushion that she used to keep her butt from getting sore when other people carried her places around the city.
people like
what a
physically carry her
struggle.
around.
Yeah, the Indians would carry you from place to
What a
place. yeah.
struggle
Yeah.
to have a sore butt.
Both an inner and an outer cushion had to be ripped open to get to the feathers inside, and there they discovered Mrs. Sinnott's brooch and a note from Koot Humi. The note gave an address where Sinnott might send future correspondence to the enlightened adept, unless indeed, said Koot Humi, and you're going to like him for this, you would really prefer corresponding through pillows.
What a savage.
Yeah,
He's the joke master.
he's
Just some pillow talk.
I just like.
Oh, that was nice. That was
Thanks.
better than that was.
Well,
All right, let's switch back to a bit of biography here. Blavatsky was frequently sick in India. In fall of 1880, she contracted both dengue fever and Punjab fever. Dengue involves a high fever, rash, nausea, headache, and muscle and joint pain. Unpleasant. The next year, she traveled to Lahore, where she was supposed to have met Master Moria.
Sorry, I couldn't let that one go.
Lahore, yes. Then in 1882, she stayed in the Maharaja's palace in Calcutta, where they established the Bengal Theosophical Society. Later that year, she was sick yet again, this time with Bright's disease, a kidney disease associated with diabetes. And she would have this on and off, and pretty much I think this is pretty much what killed her, kidney disease. In December, she and Olcott traveled to the Theosophical Society's new headquarters in Adyar in Madras, on the eastern coast of the subcontinent. In December 1883, Blavatsky was ill yet again and appeared at an annual meeting of the Society on crutches. Her doctors gave her 3 months to live if she didn't relocate to a different climate. So she and Olcott left for London in February 1884.
I thought people tried to leave London when they're sick.
Well, if you have, like, tuberculosis.
Okay.
She has kidney disease, so different things.
But what if she got tuberculosis when she moved to
she did
London
not have
on top
tuberculosis.
of kidney disease?
What if? And that brings us to the Kalum affair. Yeah, can I do this now?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
yeah, sure. I'm done.
Emma Cutting had first met HPB in Cairo when she was attempting, HPB that is, to create a seance center for mediums. The business didn't go well, and Cutting lent her some money to get her out of the jam of not having a good business, I guess. Later, she probably racked up some debts, and she needed to get out of the debts because she was trying to build this medium business. Later, Cutting married the Frenchman Alexis Coulomb, and together they made several attempts at running hotels in different cities, finally landing in Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, sounds familiar, in 1880, near destitute. When Emma read that Blavatsky had arrived in India, she wrote to her, and Blavatsky, honoring her debt of friendship to Emma, gave Madame Coulomb and her husband positions as the housekeepers of the Theosophical Society headquarters in Adyar. It was pretty nice of her.
Yeah.
By all accounts, the Coulomms were more resentful than grateful, though, for this opportunity to work for Blavatsky, right? Because they're like, we don't want to work for you, like, doing stuff.
Honoring a debt
Yeah.
gave them a job to work for her.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
But they had a steady gig, so there's something to that. So they tried to game money off members of the society in an attempt to change their station in life. They begged 2,000 rupees from Prince Rajnit Singh, a recent initiate into the Theosophical Society, not my official pronunciation. Rajnit, anyway. But she was rebuffed, and HPB reprimanded her for making the ask in the first place. Then, when Blavatsky and Olcott left for England, the Coulomms saw their opportunity to cash in. A group of Christian missionaries miffed that Blavatsky's open contempt for them and support of the natives' religion was sort of throwing off their whole missionary thing, right?
Killing the vibe.
Killing their vibe, causing an intense miffing. They offered 2,000 rupees to defraud Blavatsky. Just about the amount they were looking to collect, right? Perfect. When Blavatsky and Olcott were away, the Theosophists she left in charge at Adyar decided to dismiss the Coulomms for skimming out of the household accounts and attempting to blackmail the society with threats to satisfy the missionaries. And the Coulomms, out on their butts yet again, and more bitter than ever, decided to bring Blavatsky down with them.
How old is Blavatsky during all this? Not that it matters, but I was just wondering.
She's in her middle age.
Okay.
Yeah, nearing late middle age. Here, the story diverges, depending on whether you're talking to a sympathetic or unsympathetic biographer. So we'll hear from both. Sylvia Cranston, sympathetic biographer, says that the Coulomms gained access to Blavatsky's apartments in order to cut holes in the walls and stage the room to make it look like Blavatsky had been cheating to create her supposedly supernatural phenomena. The argument the Coulomms made was that they passed letters through the hole into Blavatsky's shrine, a cabinet where the masters materialized letters and other objects like saucers. Do you see?
Did they check?
Because I was confused at first by the wall cutting, like what that would accomplish.
Yeah. So as soon as she left, they started faking all this stuff as if she had been faking it, but she wasn't faking it, is what Cranston says. Do you see?
Okay, that makes sense.
I was confused first.
So she's gone, so they want to make her look bad, so they start creating all these fake
I
things.
just thought that they were just cutting holes in her walls. And I was like,
That'll get her.
The cabinet itself was, I mean, that would, if you came
yeah,
by,
I would be
that
very
would really
angry if I came home to
ruin my
holes
day.
in my
You'd be
walls.
miffed.
So the cabinet was hacked up so that it now had a false back to manipulate, to place objects into and out of without being detected. Peter Washington, who is an unsympathetic biographer, says that Emma had been employed by Blavatsky in Cairo to perform fraudulent phenomena when they first met, and had simply taken up doing more of the same when she moved to Adyar. Dissatisfied with her situation and looking for a payday, she simply told the truth when the missionaries made their offer. So depending on who you want to believe, right? Either they're faking the faking, or they're just coming clean. The Columns, by their own account, seem to have cut holes all over the Adyar headquarters. Emma Column published a pamphlet defending her version of events when the story hit all the newspapers. She painted Blavatsky as a career swindler with a bizarre sense of humor.
Madame Blavatsky, one evening, taking hold of my arm, all of a sudden said, "Look here, run and tell the colonel that you've seen a figure in the garden." "Where's the figure?" I asked. "Never mind," she said. "Run and tell him so. We shall have some fun." And thinking this to be a joke, I ran to him and told him. As the colonel came up, Madame began to laugh, saying, "See, she's been afraid of an apparition." And so they both went on laughing, and going up to the other bungalow, related the story to the rest of the people who were there. I must conscientiously say I did not know what they meant by this joke.
But the joke was also at Olcott's expense.
After we removed from the room we occupied in the library compound to a room above Colonel Olcott's bedroom, Madame Blavatsky came upstairs and asked me to try and make a hole. From this hole, by stretching the arm full length into it, one could touch the ceiling cloth of Colonel Olcott's office, which was adjoining to his bedroom. She gave me an envelope containing a portrait. I made a slit in the ceiling cloth with a penknife, and afterwards slipped it through.
This was a portrait of a Mahatma that Olcott would go on to report as one of the many genuine materialized phenomena he experienced through the secret brotherhood. And that brings us to the Hodgson report, last part of today's discussion.
Okay.
Okay. A scandal ensued, and it was around this time that an investigator from the Society for Psychical Research by the name of Richard Hodgson arrived to perform a series of interviews with members of the Theosophical Society to try and get to the bottom of Blavatsky's claim to occult power. Hodgson had been open and even enthusiastic about the prospect of discovering Blavatsky to be a genuine occult disciple of the Brotherhood. He really wanted these phenomena to be real. But apparently, he was sorely disappointed, because in Volume 3 of the Proceedings of the Society for Psychical Research, issued in 1885, the SPR, reacting to his report and their own follow-up investigation, issued a series of damning conclusions. The Mahatma's letters, they said, were forgeries written by Blavatsky herself and materialized according to the cabinet and hole-in-the-wall scheme laid out by the unsympathetic Blavatsky scholar, Washington. The Society was careful to stipulate that Colonel Henry Olcott, who they initially thought might be Blavatsky's confederate in her confidence game, was actually just another one of her credulous dupes. But he wasn't alone. Hodgson was ruthless in his characterization of the witnesses to Blavatsky's miracles gathered in Adyar.
In short, my lengthy examinations of the numerous array of witnesses to the phenomena showed that they were, as a body, excessively credulous, excessively deficient in the powers of common observation, and too many of them prone to supplement that deficiency by culpable exaggeration.
Disputing the Theosophists' claim that the Columns had manufactured the wall aperture and rigged the shrine in order to incriminate Blavatsky, Hodgson dismissed the whole idea.
There is no evidence to show that any person ever removed the shrine from the wall or saw it removed from the wall after it was first placed there, until the expulsion of the Columns.
In fact, Hodgson discovered that when the Theosophists had found out that the shrine had been corrupted, they tore it apart and had it burned. It's a good way to destroy the evidence. Mm-hmm. Only Dr. Franz Hartmann, a German medical doctor and leading theosophist who would go on to write a series of interesting books on occultism and theosophy, retained a piece of the shrine. Hartmann wrote to Hodgson,
"I came to the conclusion, and am still of the opinion, that the holes in the wall were made by Monsieur Columb after H.P. Blavatsky went to Europe, and am now inclined to believe that Monsieur Columb made them to ingratiate himself with Madame Blavatsky, to facilitate her supposed tricks. In fact, I do not know of a single phenomena that happened in my presence that would have been of the slightest use."
Hartmann makes a valid point here. We considered 3 separate incidents of the cup and saucer, the brooch, and the cushion, none of which could have benefited at all from the use of a rigged cabinet. Right? So if they had a rigged cabinet, still
why would
wouldn't
they bring the
account for it.
cabinet to all those picnics?
And what sense would it make to use it at the picnic?
Yeah, it's a lot to haul
Store
around.
more cups.
Wait.
Oh, never mind.
That would have solved the whole problem if they
I
just
told
brought
you
the
they could have
cabinet
just
in.
brought extra cups.
Wow.
For Hodgson, the presence of the cabinet was proof that Blavatsky was willing and able to fake her materialized communications from the Mahatmas, and that she employed co-conspirators in her work, namely the Kalums, although Hodgson would name several others in his report. So let's go through the Blavatsky phenomena that we discussed and Hodgson's explanations one by one, matching them up. First, the raps Sinnott heard constantly attending Blavatsky were, according to Hodgson, just crackings of her thumb joint.
What?
Well, the Fox sisters we
Yeah.
talked about in their
The
episodes,
toe.
their toe, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or at least
yeah.
that was what they claimed, but then they recanted it anyway.
But I feel like you would have been able to hear where that was coming from.
Or someone would have noticed her thumb moving.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
see that.
Hands.
As for the ringing, Kalum told Hodgson that the bell sounds were made by a machine, like a small music box that Blavatsky wore or gave to her servant Babula to wear. Stains on Blavatsky's garments showed exactly where she wore it, where the thing had rusted or oxidized. Babula was also the explanation for the mysteriously buried cup and saucer. He was only 15 when Blavatsky had first hired him in Bombay, and a teenager for all of the events that transpired throughout Blavatsky's and Olcott's Indian adventures. He was a Gujarati boy from the western coast and of the subcontinent south of Pakistan. The Gujarati people were historically known for being merchants, and with a history of travel, were eager to migrate to other parts of the British Empire. For his part, Babula could speak several languages and learned French from Blavatsky. According to Hodgson, he also learned how to deceive his aristocratic colonizers. Working among the servants, Babula was able to manipulate which tea set Mrs. Sinnott brought along for her picnic and swipe a cup to perform the brothers' miraculous materialization.
So they're just pretty much. Sorry, I didn't really understand
So
why
he's
that.
like smuggling the cup along with him and just sneaks it into the dirt when nobody's looking.
But why does all that background about him matter? They just.
Well, he was 15 at the time, so that's something we should bear in mind.
So they're like, oh, this is
deviant.
a
He's a
young
foreigner,
guy.
but he's also very intelligent. He's not a foreigner. He's sort of from a bit. He's not from the immediate region, but he's a very intelligent guy who speaks multiple languages.
I also have trouble with the fact that even if he did bring that extra cup, how did he know it would be used?
Also,
Like, was it planned
Well,
that
I
the
guess-
dude had showed up, like, randomly, the extra person? Like, because they didn't know there was going to be a seventh person.
Right, he would have had to anticipate several
Exactly,
things.
so
yeah.
that's why I don't know.
the whole dirt thing, like if it didn't look like it was unturned, then, I mean,
It's also weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we could say that, Sinnott's just trying to justify this,
Yeah.
work around this very obvious explanation.
The previous abstraction of the cup and saucer, their burial in the early morning, the description of the spot to Madame Blavatsky, the choice of the particular service taken, are deeds which lie easily within the accomplishments of Babula's powers.
On the materialized brooches, Hodgson offers a less satisfactory analysis, because these events are, at least as written down by Sinnott, much harder to explain, even imagining the help of Babula and the Kalums. To begin, he only mentions one brooch, and contrary to Sinnott's story that Mrs. Hume hadn't seen her brooch since before she left for India, figures that she must have had it with her and sent it out for repair. So he completely changes what the brooch is.
It is at any rate certain that Mrs. Hume entrusted a brooch which needed some slight repair to Mr. Hormushji S. Servai of Bombay, who shortly afterwards returned it to Madame Blavatsky. The fact that Mrs. Hume chose the lost brooch as the object to be brought to her by the brother, Mr. Hume, is inclined to explain as a case of thought transference to Mrs. Hume from Madame Blavatsky, who is probably willing intensely that Mrs. Hume should think of the brooch.
Members of the SPR had seen evidence of thought transference and were far more inclined to believe in it than many of us today. But that's more a credit to them than us. If Blavatsky truly was scamming these people as described, her ability to materialize randomly selected items, knowing which item to have, even though it was selected live in front of her, right? There's some serious improv going on here. That's difficult to explain. She didn't know that they would ask for this brooch or this note to materialize in that place. Mrs. Hume chooses the brooch, even if Blavatsky manipulates her choice. How would she have managed to get a brooch that Hume had lost in London years ago in the first place?
Exactly. None of it adds up.
That's a vast conspiracy, right? Mrs. Sinnott chose the cushion for her brooch and the note to be buried in. If Blavatsky had staged the cushion in advance, there was no way for her to know that the cushion would have been the spot that she selected.
Plus, the woman, like, she said she sits on it, right?
Right.
Was she, like...
I don't know if she was sitting on it at the time, but...
I like to think she was.
She was being carried, sir.
She was being carried at that moment.
Hard work being carried.
The only possible natural explanation would involve sleight of hand, but after placing the cushion under a rug for a minute, Alfred Sinnett was the one to cut it open, and his wife searched the feathers. So there was no chance for her to like sneak it in, sleight of hand wise.
It would have been different if she was the one actually opening
Moving
it.
stuff. Like if she was the one physically moving stuff, then it would make more sense.
The point I want to make here is that mysteries remain in all of this, even if Blavatsky was up to some hanky-panky, which seems entirely possible, maybe with Babula. Hodgson was unable to... She's not that kind of hanky-panky.
Okay, I was about to say, she is middle-aged and he is 15.
Hodgson was unable to... And she was virginal and celibate throughout her life, and quite proud of that.
Yeah.
Hodgson was unable to produce a satisfactory explanation for all of her phenomena. The fact that she may have been faking some does not mean that she was faking all, in my opinion. In modern history, two real fakers spring to mind who similarly blended real and fake phenomena. Eusapia Palladino was a medium extensively tested by the SPR. Palladino could produce cold breezes and raps, cause objects to levitate, and materialize hands and spirit bodies. An investigation in Cambridge in 1895, conducted by Frederick Myers, as well as Henry and Eleanor Sidgwick and Richard Hodgson himself, proved a failure.
Oh, sorry, I know we kind of moved on, but what's SPR?
Society for Psychical Research.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about an exploration of this other medium, which is who I'm comparing to Blavatsky here.
Yeah.
So that was a failure, test number one. The phenomena were not impressive, and Palladino was caught cheating. But a subsequent investigation in Naples in 1908, conducted by Everard Fielding, W.W. Bagali, and Hereward Carrington, exerted very disciplined controls on the medium, and she produced an impressive array of unexplained phenomena. So she's caught faking, but she also does mysterious things.
See, everyone could just have an off day occasionally.
Uri Geller's a very famous modern example. Have you guys heard of this guy, the spoon bender?
Oh, yeah.
Geller's ability to bend metal was tested and affirmed by university and military physicists, but the stage magician James Randi caught him faking psychic phenomena by prearranging his props, for example, on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. The ability to produce genuine phenomena does not preclude the impulse to cheat in order to continue to impress and hold the interest of your audience, is what I'm trying to say. Especially if it means gaining or maintaining celebrity status, which Blavatsky more or less had in India. Remember, she's traveling around these aristocratic circles, people are writing books about her. So she's tempted, I think, to fake some things to impress these people, the same way Uri Geller was on The Tonight Show. It's at this point in his report that Hodgson turns to the letters. Were Kuthumi's letters forged by Madame Blavatsky? Was there even such a person as Kuthumi or Master Moria, for that matter?
Oh my gosh.
I know. Doubts begin independent of anything the Columns did or Hodgson wrote, with the Kittle incident.
What? The Kittle?
What is a Kittle?
The trance medium H. Kittle
Oh, it's a person.
Oh.
accused Kuthumi of plagiarizing a letter he had written to Alfred Sinnett, in which Sinnett had later published, from a speech given by the trance medium Kittle, which had been published in the Banner of Light 2 months earlier. So Kittle publishes his speech, and then suddenly it shows up in things Sinnett is writing on the inspiration of Kuthumi. So Sinnett's publishing what Kuthumi is sending, and it looks an awful lot like the stuff Kittle had published months earlier.
Okay.
Do you see?
Yeah.
Blavatsky, attempting to navigate around this difficulty, blamed an unnamed disciple who had copied the message down from Humi, and Humi issued a revised version which put Kittle's material in quotes. Like when I catch a student plagiarizing. When Kittle found still more plagiarisms, Humi claimed that he must have unintentionally picked up Kittle's lecture on the occult currents, like the radio waves, and incorporated it into his notes to Sinnett. Suspicious stuff, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hodgson had a number of experts at the time analyze the writing, including SPR member Eleanor Sidgwick.
The comparison of handwritings further tends to show that Kuthumi Lal Singh and Mahatma Moria are fictitious personages, and most of the documents purporting to have emanated from these personages are in disguised handwriting of Madame Blavatsky herself.
The SPR has since published a refutation of Hodgson's conclusion, fun fact, albeit a century later. SPR investigator Vernon Harrison performed a detailed analysis of the Mahatma letters and samples of Blavatsky's writing and concluded that the handwriting was, in fact, different. So many decades later, this guy Vernon Harrison returns to this report, and he's like, oh, wait a second. I think these handwritings are different. Handwriting analysis at that time was not sophisticated enough to determine that they were written by the same person. Harrison also entertained the idea that others might have forged the letters to implicate Blavatsky or manipulate the society. Alexis Coulomb, for example, had demonstrated an ability to fake Blavatsky's writing and used it to send false messages from Blavatsky to other members of the Theosophical Society. So Coulomb could have been faking letters to make Blavatsky look bad, is what Harrison's saying. Furthermore, he notes that Humi's writing was done in a kind of ink that, unlike most ink of the time period, had not faded with time and did not, at the time, penetrate through the paper, but rather rested on the surface, failing to enter the rice paper's pores. Weird.
So she just had like a magic pen? Is that what it's saying?
Well, not Blavatsky, Humi, because he materialized these letters.
Oh, okay,
So
wait.
could
So
you wipe the
we're talking
ink off?
about-
We're talking about the Humi letters here.
So we're not talking about actual writing. We're talking about materialized writing.
Well, it is writing, but it's
like
Humi
it's not
writing.
like
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
took
yeah.
a pen. Okay,
No,
that's
no.
why I was like, how did somebody write on a paper without it going through?
Well, if Alexis Coulomb had done it or Blavatsky had done it, it would have gone through.
Sunk
But
in.
Humi is magic.
Okay.
That brings us to the biggest question of all. If Blavatsky was faking the Mahatmas, why did she do it? And if she wasn't, who were they really? We'll find out in the next installment of Blavatsky's series here on Occult Confessions.
Oh, we're done. Wow.
Yeah, how about that? Well, I told you it's a two-parter, so that's it for
yeah.
this.
We
We've
can't
talked
know
about
everything yet.
the occult world. Now we're going to talk about the politics in the next episode. Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Okay, that brings us to our order of confessors. Shannon, you got to initiate this for us. All right, Shannon, InstaQuizler, what can we look forward to on Instagram?
Oh, well, I posted some pictures of fan art that one of our listeners made. I'm really excited about it. You guys should go check it out.
Cool, fan art. That's our
Yeah.
first fan art.
It's our first, and if anyone else wants to make fan art, I will gladly post it on Instagram. Very excited to have some.
Delightful. So if you want
Yeah.
to draw your own version of Kuthumi,
Or that.
yeah.
I'd like to know what people think Kuthumi looks
I
like.
want to. I don't know what he looks. I don't know. I don't have.
There
an
are some
idea,
images
but-
out there, but
Really?
I think you should go ahead and imagine him for yourself before you
Yeah.
engage in the fan art.
The occult waves speak to you a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, I do have a few confessors that I have been exchanging messages with. Kevin M., an art historian, bumped up his Patreon donation to us recently because he was really enjoying the Satanism series.
Yeah.
Satan will do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Olivia and I keep saying, Satan.
Speaking of the Satanism series, I had an excellent exchange with Sarah from Montreal, who fell over laughing at our Chuck Norris references in our Satanic Panic episode. She remembers the moment when Chuck Norris turned to his friend and said, "Tears from heaven, Trevette. Tears from heaven."
Wow, man.
It sounds
It's
like it was a
interesting.
Yeah, you guys have
beautiful
no idea what I'm
scene.
talking
Sounds
about.
so
Yeah.
deep,
But
though. I
it's
don't know.
interesting knowing how much of a fan you are of Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Walker, Texas Ranger.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah. Jed Zeppelin, who has an awesome name.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also heard from him. He's working on a book and wrote to stroke our egos. So consider your egos stroking.
Thank you.
Ooh. That's what I
Thank
like
you.
to do to my egos.
That
I
wraps
like
up our.
my ego to be. I'm gonna stop talking. All right.
Let's wrap up our order of
Please,
confessors
please
here.
do.
We'll gong on out of this one. All right, and let's close it out. Do you know the words?
I hereby declare
Adjourn.
oh shoot! I hereby adjourn and declare closed this meeting of the Order of
Secret
Order of
Alchemical
Alchemical Actors until such a time comes
as we get together.
as we get together and do it again.
Very nice. A
Thank
group
you.
effort. A group effort. So
Some of us
Someone
pay
always
attention.
has to help me when I have to say it.
I didn't help. I just watched.
today we had Ray Candela doing the voice of Helena Blavatsky, Hunter Sheeler doing the voice of Hartman. We had Sean Priest doing the role of Hodgson.
Hodgson.
What other characters do we have in the mix? We had Abby Cook
Yeah.
doing Emma Kaloum.
Mrs. Sinnott.
Yes, our own Jacob Wheatley. I don't know if you recognized him there.
I know.
And Brandon Walls doing your husband, AP Sinnott.
I know.
How about that?
Love it.
So, joining me in discussion today, we had Brianna Littoral,
Bye, I guess.
our metallurgic prophet,
Yeah.
who's going to have to find new metallurgic things to do this year.
Huh.
Yeah. Shannon Lander, it's all right. It's first episode for
All
you.
right,
So
awesome.
we'll start to
prophet
discover
discovers.
metallurgic ways to express your metallurgy.
Okay.
Shannon Landers,
Bye, guys.
Insta-Quisitor, and Jacob Wheatley, Knight of the Dangling Serpent.
Goodbye.
Soon to be master.
We're working on it.
Once
My
I
name
master it.
is Rob C. Thompson. I am your host and the Supreme Hierophant here at the Alchemical Actors Ranch. We will be broadcasting podcasting. You should know it was at Ranch. News to you.
I only thought of Neverland Ranch.
Oh, no, not that ranch.
Oh, I was thinking like Manson.
Oh.
None of those ranches. No, this is a much nicer ranch to hang out in.
This is okay.
Let's stop talking about ranches.
What?
I'll catch you all next time for Blavatsky's second part in India here on Occult Confessions.